The baby hadn't stopped crying in 3 hours, and the German shepherd would not stop staring at his mouth. They thought Atlas had turned. He hadn't. He was the only one in that house who understood what was happening. Marcus and Delia Fontaine had owned Atlas for 4 years before their son Theo arrived. 110-pound German shepherd, trained, obedient, steady. He had passed every temperament test. He had slept at the foot of their bed every night without being asked. When Theo came home from the hospital, Atlas had approached the car seat once, inhaled slowly, then walked to his corner and lay down. No drama. No fuss. The kind of acceptance that made people say, "See? You worried for nothing." Theo was 16 months old the morning everything changed. He woke at 5:53, which was normal. He was fussy when Delia lifted him from the crib, which was normal. By 6:15, the crying had a different texture to it, and Delia noticed but filed it under teething. She had been filing too many things under teething. Atlas moved from the kitchen doorway into the living room without sound. He crossed the carpet and lowered his face until his muzzle was 6 inches from Theo's face. The boy was sitting in Delia's lap, and the dog's nose was right there, steady, not touching, just present, aimed at the boy's mouth like a compass needle finding north. Theo screamed harder. Delia pulled Atlas back by the collar. He sat, waited 4 seconds, then moved forward again. She said his name. Marcus came downstairs at 6:40 and found his wife holding the crying boy with one hand and the dog's collar with the other. "That's new," he said. She nodded without looking up. "It started 20 minutes ago." He keeps going for his face. Marcus was an electrician, 11 years in commercial construction. He was not a man who read animal behavior journals. But he had grown up with dogs, and something about the way Atlas was sitting, the quality of his attention, the way he kept returning to the same spot despite every correction, made Marcus stand very still in the doorway and say nothing for a long moment. "He looks like he's reading something." Delia looked up. "What?" "He looks like he's trying to read something," on Theo's face. They moved Atlas to the back porch anyway. Delia was a dental hygienist. 9 years. She had seen her share of canine incidents and client histories. A dog pressing its muzzle toward an infant's face was not something she was willing to treat as curiosity. She knew the literature on large breed incidents. She knew how fast things could go wrong. She made the reasonable decision, the responsible decision, the decision any informed parent would have made. Atlas scratched at the back door for 45 minutes. Theo cried for another hour. He accepted half a bottle. He fell asleep on Delia's chest, and she set him in the pack and play in the living room and went to start a load of laundry. The monitor propped on the dryer beside her. She heard Atlas hit the door. Not scratch, hit. The full weight of 110 pounds in a single impact. And then again. And then a sound she had not heard him make in 4 years. Something sustained and low and wrong. The kind of sound that had nothing to do with wanting to come inside. She was down the hallway before she had a conscious thought. Theo was in the pack and play, eyes open, not crying. The particular silence of a toddler who has run out of the energy to cry. His lips were a shade she recognized from dental school, a pallor in the mucous membranes that her instructors had used as a clinical marker. His fingers were curled against the mesh, not gripping, just resting, too still. She picked him up, and his body was wrong. The limpness was a single degree past normal, and that single degree was everything. She screamed for Marcus. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The paramedic who responded, a woman named Yolanda Reyes, 12 years in emergency response, assessed Theo in the driveway and said one word to her partner that made them both move faster. At the hospital, Dr. Amara Osei-Bonsu, pediatric emergency medicine, 2 decades of clinical practice, came back with a number. 34. Theo's blood glucose was 34 milligrams per deciliter. The clinical floor for a toddler his age is 70. Below 50, the brain begins rationing its primary fuel. Below 40, the window to irreversible neurological consequence is not measured in hours. It is measured in minutes. He had a congenital metabolic condition that had never been detected. His blood sugar had been dropping episodically for weeks. The crying they had interpreted as teething, as fussiness, as normal toddler behavior, was his body's only available signal that something was wrong. Dr. Osei-Bonsu looked at them directly and said, "You got here when you did. 12 more minutes and we would be talking about a very different outcome. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." The veterinary behaviorist who reviewed the case, Dr. Priya Subramaniam of the Animal Cognition Lab, explained what Atlas had been doing every time he pressed his muzzle toward Theo's face. Hypoglycemic episodes produce isoprene and acetone compounds in exhaled breath. In a child with glucose instability, these compounds change in concentration as the blood sugar drops. A dog can detect those compounds at parts per trillion, well before any visible symptom appears, well before any monitor in that house would have triggered. Atlas had been reading the drop in Theo's breath chemistry since 6:15 in the morning. Every time Delia pulled him back, he sat and waited and returned to his post. Every time they corrected him, he absorbed the correction and came back to the one thing he could not stop monitoring. Every impact against the back door was not distress. It was an alarm. It was the only language he had left. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. They brought Theo home 4 days later with a continuous glucose monitor on his left arm and a protocol from Dr. Osei-Bonsu's team. They brought Atlas inside from the porch, and he walked directly to the living room and lay down beside the pack and play and put his chin on the floor. He exhaled once. Delia sat across from him for a long time without moving. Then she put her hand on his head and did not say anything because there was nothing she could say that would be adequate. And Atlas seemed to understand that. He closed his eyes and kept his chin on the floor and stayed. The glucose monitor blinked green in the dark. Atlas stayed awake anyway. The next story involves a dog who refused to leave a closed door for 6 hours straight, and why that mattered more than any technology in that house.